L'chaim. Chaim l'chaim v'bracha. Today is the 7th day of the year. 46 years ago, my dear father, of blessed memory, left this world. Today is his yahrzeit. Today is his day of passing, 46 years ago. Today's learning is dedicated in his honor, not just in his memory, of course in memory, but in his honor, because it's not just a memory. He has a soul. That soul lives on. And therefore, when we do something for a departed soul, we don't just honor them, we nourish them. We nourish the soul through our learning, through the mitzvahs that we do, the tzedakah that we give, and so on. So today, Aryeh Leib ben Yaakov Alevi, his Jewish name Aryeh Leib, son of Yaakov, a Levi, a Levite. May his soul go from strength to strength, have an aliyah, and may the ultimate aliyah of coming back to this world, Chiyas HaMesim, together with Mashiach, so return with all of loved ones. Amen. Welcome to Tanya Today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zecher and Kadeshim. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We are in the midst of a metaphor and unraveling the metaphor. Today we unravel key components to the metaphor. A king who is a mighty king comes with a retinue traveling with his family. Well, maybe not family, leave the family out for the moment. His ministers, high-ranking ministers, low-ranking ministers, all sorts. And he comes and he sees a destitute individual living on a dunghill. Not only does he rescue himself personally from there, not through one of his ministers or from one of his servants, but he himself goes. And not only does he rescue him from there, but brings him into the palace. And not into just in the palace where the ministers go, but into the inner chamber. And has a deep, profound relationship with this individual. This is the metaphor. What does it mean? Who are the ministers? Well, there are a lot closer angels to God and following the intent of God on high than you and I. They're ministering God's creation. Now, they're not an entity for themselves. We don't, they're not something for themselves, just as we're not, right? But they're not an entity for themselves. They're working for God, right? They are very aware of God's presence as opposed to me and you. They are very much fulfilling exactly their mandate, much more than you and I are doing. Right? Every moment they are. Yet those very same angels, they ask, where's the God's glory? And they answer, here in the physical world. Not there, in the spiritual world is God's glory. Why? Because his people, Israel, are here. We say this in the davening every day. Right? Meaning, God forsakes those creations of his, those creatures, higher, lower ones, higher ministers, lower ministers, right? And what does he choose? He chooses Israel, the Jewish people, a people that were on a dunghill What was that dunghill called? Egypt. That's the dunghill. And who took us out? It wasn't ministering angels that took us out of Egypt, right? As we say in the Haggadah, as the Torah teaches us, right? From the dunghill called Egypt, place of 86 years of harsh servitude, slavery. So a disgraceful place that God took us out of there himself, the king. Not through an angel, not through a saraf. But God, the Holy One, blessed be He took us out of there. As in the parable, the metaphor that we use. Why did God do that? What does He need it for? It wasn't enough that He took us out of Egypt, but He brought us into the inner chamber of His palace because He wants to have a true closeness and a relationship with us. Right? He wants to have a real relationship with us. One, a very intimate relationship. How do you have an intimate relationship? There's two things involved in basic two things in an intimate relationship. There's a kiss and a hug. So God kisses us. How? Well, right now, that's what He's doing actually. Because study of Torah is an intimate kiss. Because what is a kiss? A kiss is when two lips come together and there's even an exchange of breath. What does that mean? What is the metaphor? Well, I am saying the words of Tanya. I am lipping, right? The words of I'm lipping, saying the words of Torah, which God is saying together with me. That's you can read, yeah. Through doing that, you are not only just communicating His word, but you're sort of mimicking His word by saying the words of Torah. Yes, say them in Tanya. So that's a kiss. That's the movement of lips that come to the two, my movement and God's movement. So there's a kiss there, right? Because I'm saying His words. He's reflecting back those words. At the same time, there's an exchange of breath in a kiss, which God's breath, right? His wisdom is now infiltrating me and becoming my wisdom. From His wisdom, then I will have a perception the way God perceives the world. There will be now something that I ingest and it becomes part of my perspective, how I see the world. That's what an intimate kiss is. Right? That's the idea of the spirit of man with the spirit of God. When we comprehend His Torah and knowledge, His will and wisdom, and that way we become truly one with Him. That's the concept of a kiss. What's an embrace? In a mitzvah that we do. An embrace isn't internalized. The kiss is internalized because the breath is internalized. The will and wisdom of God is internalized because we comprehend it, we get it. It becomes part of us. Not just becomes a part of us, it becomes the way now we see the world, the way God sees the world, as He teaches us in Torah. An embrace is external. When you embrace a person, you're embracing them from the outside. Well, that's what happens when you put on tefillin. It's God's embrace, not inside of me, but around me when we do a mitzvah. So God took us out of the dunghill to bring us into the inner chamber. He took us out of Egypt to bring us into His inner chamber, right? So we can now fulfill the divine will, 248 positive commandments, which are 248 limbs, figuratively speaking, of God, which is reflected in the fact that we have 248 limbs.
Limbs or organs?
Huh? Limbs, organs, whatever term you want.
Okay.
It's not organs like we don't have 248 hearts and livers and so on, right? You know. Well, no, but no, it does denote. And the Talmud does speak about what the 248 are, what they are, but it doesn't mean literally organs because you don't have 248 organs, right? Your hand is not an organ, right? But in your hand you have 14 different components, right? Yad, Yud, Dalet is 14, right? If you count over here, you're going to see 14 components in your hand, right? That's part of the 248. Okay. So different, the compartments, if you will, limbs, organs, it's all, whatever. Of course, it's a metaphor, but there are the 248 that, the reference to. Because God, why do we have 248? Because God has 248 compartments, if you will, of his divine will. So they are his limbs that he embraces us when we, in our physical limbs, do the mitzvah. Because to give charity, you need a physical hand to do it. To put on tefillin, you need that. To light Shabbos candles, to observe the mitzvahs, right? You need the physical limbs to do it. And there are 248 mitzvahs because each one mitzvah has a particular limb that it connects to specifically. All of them together, but specifically to each one, right? There are basic three different categories: right, left, and center. Chesed, Gevura, and Tiferes is, right, which is Chesed, the right arm, Gevura, the left arm, and Tiferes is the body, the torso. How do you give a hug? Two arms and a torso, right? So that is the divine hug that God brought us into his inner chamber, that he doesn't bring angels there. He doesn't even bring souls after they leave this world. They're in Gan Eden. They don't get this hug that we get right now in our learning. Got that?
So here, when we're alive, we experience.
Well, we don't experience it. It's happening. We're not experiencing it. Right now, we're experiencing the divine kiss with God? No. Is it happening? Yes. We need to be aware of it. Now we became aware of it. We're not experiencing it. In times of Mashiach, we'll experience it. Right now, we need to know that this is a reality, even though we don't feel it, right? Your feelings are not what's reality. What God's truth is reality, right?
So in the days of Mashiach, he said you will experience it.
Right. But you won't experience it in Gan Eden. You'll experience a minimal ray of this, a ray of light, but not the source of light. Okay. Now, with this, then we can understand when we make a bracha, right? To do a mitzvah. You say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, asher kidishanu b'mitzvah sav. Right? That he has sanctified us with his commandment. What does it mean? He's sanctified us with his commandment. What does that mean? Well, it means just like what are we talking about? Intimate relationship over here with God. So sanctified means just like with a woman that you betrothed and you sanctify, it's called kiddushin. Right? Sanctification, kodesh, holiness, betrothal. It means betrothal. So through a mitzvah, we are betrothed to God, like a man who betroths a woman to become his wife. In other words, what is he doing when he's betrothing this woman? To become two halves of one soul, reunited and become one. Is that clear? So in order to cleave to one's wife and to become one flesh, that's what happens by betrothal. So right when we do a mitzvah, we take a coin for charity and we're giving it to tzedakah, we are becoming even more united with God than a man with his wife becomes united. because that's in the physical, and therefore there's limitation to that union. Far infinitely surpassing that union, the divine soul, when it's engaged in Torah and doing mitzvahs, and with the vivifying soul, our animal soul, and the garments of the animal soul, they become united with the light of the Ein Sof, one with God, infinitely beyond that which being a husband and wife become. Even though husband and wife, that's a, in the physical world is the ultimate union. And therefore, its term is Kiddushin. You sanctify and become holy and sanctified, meaning union. It means a concept of a union. To have one soul, they be reunited, husband and wife. And here we are becoming sanctified, connected, a union with God through the Torah and the mitzvahs that we fulfill. Very extremely powerful. Any questions on that? Any thoughts on that?
So every time you do a mitzvah, you mix it up.
Asher Gidishanu.
It's like a big throw.
Hmm?
I'm just trying to get my mind inside the concept of
It's a betrothal. It's a union. In other words, betrothal means a union. So it's a perfect union with God, right? That God doesn't have with any other creation, right? In the heavens above. Even though they're ministering angels. They're part of, God's kind of, retinue. But that's not what he cares about. And that's not what he's interested in. He's interested with this lowly, where we came from, a lowly place called a dunghill, called Egypt, which is the most, lowliest of, spiritually of lands, right? And spiritual of lands. And he didn't just personally take us out from there, but he brought us into the inner chamber that no one else gets to go in order that we can have a perfect union and oneness with him.
So this is how we give pleasure to Hashem by doing the mitzvah. This is
that he embraces us by we embracing him. Yeah.
I use my imagination to experience it, just my imagination, so I get the feeling of him embracing me. So I can use my imagination for that.
Good. Right. Not to confuse the experience of it. Right. Which is good.
Which would help until, as you said, in the
Right.
Right.
The reason why we can't experience it is because our body doesn't allow our soul to truly rule us and to be our reality, right? I'm hungry right now, and I feel that. I'm experiencing hunger right now. And I think I need a little coffee. I think so, a little bit, yes.
But did you think there's something in the past would help out of experience?
Oh, so tzaddikim, that's different. A righteous person means that the body doesn't interfere with life. The agenda of the body, right? I feel I need something to nourish me. They feel they need God to nourish them. I know I need God to nourish me. I don't feel that. I'm feeling I need this coffee now. I need something a little more, just a little bit, not too much. After all, you're a kohen, a kind kohen. Davida, will Hashem's embrace and kiss be the same in the world to come? Well, it'll just be revealed to us what's going on now. It'll, is it this? It's just we're not privy to it now, right? Thank you.
Danish?
No, that's already, oh, this is nourishing. This is uplifting. Not that the teachings wasn't, God forbid, of course it was. I'm saying in my physical body, right? My physical body still has its own agenda, right? The Rebbe's physical body doesn't have its own agenda. Got it? It's purified completely. That the body doesn't, right? We learned that previously, if you remember. Hillel, the elder, said when he would go to eat, he said, now I'm going to go do a kindness for my body. Because I didn't feel like this was a kindness to my body. It was a kindness to me. Because, the body is my first responder. The animal soul, the body, right? It's not something I've transformed. That my soul is my first, my first and only reality, right? If my soul was my first and only reality, I wouldn't feel hunger for food. I would feel hunger for God. And sometimes we feel that, but I'm talking about when you're feeling physically hungry. Very different. That's why, by the way, there's only righteous people amongst the Jewish people in that reference. It's not possible for anybody else to be that. Impossible. Why? Because it's only Torah that gives you that power. Only Torah that gives you that power. And we're not talking Torah the way we're learning it. We're talking about Torah the way that the righteous learn it in such a way that it transforms them. It's transformative for us what we're learning, no doubt. In our actions, transformative. Even the way I think, it's transformative. I think differently now. I think the way God thinks, because as we said, it's a kiss, right? We get the breath of God that's in part, that's absorbed in me, that I now see the world the way God sees the world. But it doesn't mean I feel it that way. It doesn't mean I'm better, even more importantly, not more importantly, but more precisely, it doesn't mean that my body is in living that reality. I'm aware of that reality. I think it. Just because I think it doesn't make me it. Right? Oh, yeah, absolutely. And actually, what we learned in chapter 16, thinking it, because I act upon it that way, then that's sufficient. That's sufficient for the Beinoni. Beinoni, remember, halavai Beinoni, that we have mastery over thought, speech, and action. The Beinoni doesn't feel hunger. Beinoni feels hunger. Just doesn't let that hunger control them. Right? Again, the tzaddik doesn't feel hunger. It feels a hunger for God, not the physical hunger. That's, oh, I forgot to click thank you, Davida. I forgot to click the Tanya.org button to stream it there. All right. What a shame. Okay. Davida, if you can, if at the beginning, if you could see that it's there, and let me know right away so I could click it. Surprise, I thought I did. Okay. Davida, on Sukkot, don't we feel the embrace and the kiss because of the Sukkah represents Hashem's embrace? And when we do mitzvah of the Sukkah, we have the kiss. Or is it an embrace, not a kiss? Kiss is Torah learning. Yeah, do we feel something? I'm talking about that your body senses it, not just you feel it emotionally. Maybe on some emotional level we feel something, right? But this is very different what we're talking about here. Yeah, do we really feel it, or is it just like David? I like what David said. He tries to imagine in his mind the royal embrace, what that means, right? Or the kiss, but at the same time, not fooling yourself and thinking that I'm experiencing it. A very big difference, right?
There's a limited in terms of what we want to understand.
Well, even if we have an understanding, that doesn't mean we're experiencing what we understand, right? Doesn't mean we're experiencing it, which is fine. We don't need to experience it. You know why? Because we're not tzaddikim. We're not righteous. Halavai Beinani. So be it that we become a Beinani and we have mastery over thought, speech, and action. We are BIT, Beinani in training. L'chaim on that. Okay. Davida says to David, thank you for clarifying. And David, your words were inspiring.
Cool.
All right. All right, folks. Amazing. Rambam is coming up. Yes. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zichron Kedesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Join us for Rambam now. We learn the laws of Yom Kippur. All the best. Thank you.